Welcome back to Rapology. It's your favorite rapper's favorite podcast. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Greatly appreciate the support. I'm your boy, Maurice.
This your girl, DJ South City. So boom. So today we have a phenomenal episode for you guys. I've been waiting on this episode for the last 2 months. So y'all know we're in 2026, right? One thing that we got to talk about is the year of 1996 for hip hop. It is noted as like one of the most impactful years within hip hop between all the releases that we had that year within the culture. So today we're going to jump right in and we're going to talk about our favorite albums from 1996 and then all the impact that 1996 had for the rest of hip hop, all the way dating to 2026 and the influence that it's had. So I'm excited to talk about this project. Maurice, I hope that you got your cheat sheet ready because it's been a lot of projects that was released in 1996. Cannot believe that it's 30 years later. I'll say for me personally, 1996 was one of the early years of when I fell in love with hip hop without dating myself. I feel like 1996 for me was like, yo, this is what that's 95, 96 is really the year that I knew like, oh no, this is, I wanted to be a part of the hip hop culture and I knew that I was going to fall in love. So for me, 1996 holds a special place in our hearts. And of course, we know there's other notable years, across hip hop like 2016. I know we talk about a lot. 1998, another really good, strong year for hip hop. So, no, I think it's a great topic to talk about 30 years later, celebrating a lot of really classic releases.
Yeah.
Let's jump into it. Talk to me. What's like one of your most notable albums from 1996?
Man. That's crazy to harper back on the question before I answer that. Is 1996 the greatest year in hip-hop history? And yeah, I would say 1996 is the greatest year in hip-hop history. I don't think no year is fucking with 1996 from top to bottom, from the events that was going on in hip-hop. Of course, you had the West Coast, East Coast, West Coast beef, Pac and Biggie, Bad Boy, Death Row. You had some of the most notable classic albums released from some of the most notable hip-hop artists that came out that year, rookie year, for a lot of people. But the most notable, like, I say the top album of that year, of course, and I have a few of them from 1996 that I had to pull out. I will go ahead I'm going to go ahead and go with my man Tupac, All Eyez on Me. Yes, this was released 30 years ago. Can't believe it's been that long. The greatest double disc album of all time, in a lot of people's opinion. It's either between this one and Biggie's Life After Death. I don't think, nobody could come close to these two. So for me, that stands out the most for 1996 is this one right here, All Eyez on Me. About yourself, what you feeling with 1996?
Nah, I'm gonna say the same. So ironically, we just celebrated the 30-year anniversary of All Eyez on Me, which was released on February 13th. So if you don't know me, then you gotta know like Tupac is it's probably my favorite rapper of all time. To be honest, like I really, All Eyez on Me was an album that was full of hit records. Again, like dominated the airwaves. I think outside of the East Coast, West Coast beat, All Eyez on Me was a phenomenal project. Pac was just coming out of prison at that time, going to Death Row, like really making a statement for the West Coast. Like one of the best diss track records like was released that year. Like hit him up.
Yeah.
You don't get bigger than that to me. I feel like another super classic album I gotta mention in 96 is Reasonable Doubt. For me, Reasonable Doubt was really when I got like my teeth sunk into Jay. I remember having that album as a mixtape. It was like that. It had some other stuff from like Mobb Deep. It was like a mixtape full of like all these songs from like all the East Coast era at that time. And so I remember like trying to just listen to all the music that I could that year. Like I searched high and low for people who had mixtapes or like some of these albums on there. And so for me, All Eyez on Me, of course, that was like the highlight of the year, probably for the next 5 years of hip hop for real. Sad that it was, surrounded by so much controversy and the untimely passing of Pac. But, without just kind of going too much for Pac, because I know I could talk all day. I'm gonna say Jay-Z Reasonable Doubt for me was like the summertime classic. Like I remember just like when it was released, everybody was talking about it, and like trying to get the full project, and like it was like this nigga Jay just released like the most classic album that year. So I remember that album drop specifically. Another one for me, I'm gonna say Nas, of course, It Was Written. I would say that's like my third most impactful one of the era, just because for me the East Coast was what I listened to a lot outside of like pop, you know what I mean? So I know the South was kind of coming up at that time. You know, with OutKast and things like that. You had you know, the Score with the Fugees. Like there was other projects notable at that time, of course, so we don't get into it. But for me, All Eyez on Me, Reasonable Doubt, and It Was Written. Like those were my top played joints that year for sure.
Facts. Okay, that's a great. And I actually, like I was telling you, I kind of pulled some of my 1996 most notable releases out for this video. I had out on vinyl. I have no idea what happened to it. I don't know where it's at, but I don't know where it's at. But yeah, like you were saying, you know, It Was Written, another classic album that came out that year. And there's a lot of different bangers, man. We had the debut of two iconic female rappers with their debut album as well. Lil' Kim with Hardcore,
Man
with Ill Nana. They debuted their albums that year. Like I said, 1996. I just don't see no other year like top to bottom like really rival that year. Like you mentioned earlier, there's a lot of notable years. There were a lot of classic albums. 1988 was another great year for hip hop. They considered the golden era. 1994, that was a big year. You know, you got Biggie debut, OutKast came out, Nas with Illmatic, Warren G, you know, the G-Funk era, Bone Thugs and Harmony. I believe Keith Murray came out here. So it was a lot of great hip hop. But to me, it still takes the cake, man. You had Biggie, you had Pop. Even though Biggie didn't release nothing that year, as far as like but he still was all over your airwaves, so you got to mention him. Of course, Mobb Deep released the album, Hell on Earth. Yeah, 1996, man. I don't see no other year in hip hop fucking with it. I know a lot of people might come in opinion, but I'm gonna hold 96 down.
I think what it is for me for 96, it was the first, because you know hip hop is underground, right? Like it was a lot of controversy around hip hop, especially, you know, early 90s, like, you know, NWA, all the things. Like the media itself really was not for hip hop and rap music in general, and so it was always like the, you know, little brother of the genres that needed to always fight for the respect, even though like the real was new, like hip hop was. It was what it is today. I feel like 96 was like the first year where commercially it really like gained the traction and gained the success. I do feel like a lot of that was because of the beef with like Tupac and Biggie and like that whole thing. But at the same time, it's just like we think about, you know, the events that happened even outside of that, like with the South coming up, like you had UGK that was released, like I said, OutKast, ATLiens, like you have these other you know, states, you know, coming up and regions coming up in hip hop that you really didn't get a good listen to before that was marketed. And so for me, 96 represents like a year that it was like, oh man, this is now becoming a commercial success. I think it was like the start of where we are today, where hip hop is like dominating like music, you know, from a genre perspective. I don't know another genre that is dominating like popular culture right now. And I think 96 had a lot to do with that. You know, it was a lot of media attention. And it was just a lot of people had a lot of stuff to say. I also think it was like where we first, to your point, like Biggie didn't release anything that year, but between him and Bad Boy, like they had a lot of hit records in 96. And so it kind of started like really that merge of R&B and hip hop. Cause even R&B had like a great run in 96. Like you had SWV, you had 702, like you had the peak of hip hop and R&B like coexisting at once. And it's like hip hop stopped being just about like the hard hitting beats and like, you know, the hardcore lyrics, and it started to become more smooth. Like you start to hear like jazz and
Yeah.
like I said, R&B influence and like sampling and soul, and you start hearing that in hip hop, and that's really like what to me takes hip hop like off the charts. Like,
Right.
because you have so much versatility, you have a lot of different makes and models, I'll say, of rappers at this time, and everybody got a chance to eat for real. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, East Coast, West Coast to South, like everybody got a chance to really, even the Midwest is, I think like at the time, like Twista, I don't think he released his project just yet, but like even me being in Chicago, like I remember like Twista like kind of really coming up and like having a really good commercial success at the time. So, it was a great year to me. Again, even outside of albums, we just talk about like singles that were released. It was a time. And even though I was young, it was still like, man, to be like aware at that time was just really special to me.
Yeah, you had to be there for sure. It was
for sure
amazing time. Like it was so much talent out.
Yes,
I'm looking at the list right now. De La Soul released the album.
Right.
The Roots released their album. I think it was their second album, Illadelph.
Yes, Philadelphia.
Philadelphia Half-Life. Who else released that year? Busta Rhymes released his debut album, solo album, which is called The Company. And what else? It was just so Redman. Can't forget about Redman with Muddy Waters was released that year as well.
Listen.
So hip hop in 1996, like it was crazy. And it was another guy. He wasn't really national, but he was starting to make some noise in the South. And his name, he came to be known as Master P. Master P was making some noise in the South well in 96 with Ice Cream Man and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I think from top to bottom, that year right there, nobody can stand with it from like the album perspective. And my man Ghostface, I can't forget about Ghostface. He released his debut album in 96 as well, Iron Man album. So yeah, if I had to say one year that I can just have to, somebody was like, yo, give me 1 year in hip hop that you can reference that I need to go back to, and I will always pick 1996 for that very reason, because you just have from top to bottom a bunch of albums to choose from.
Top to bottom. I will say a lot of people talk about 1998 a lot, because of, that's when I think 98 was like, again, another transitional year for hip hop where, you got like kind of like the precursor to the 2000s, like with DMX, and you had like Big Pun release, and he was, super huge in like the early 2000s. So definitely, got some competition when it comes to 1998. Miss Education Lauryn Hill was in 98 as well. OutKast again. A lot of the artists that released in 96 dropped like, subsequent projects like the next couple years later. So, and I feel like we don't get that like that anymore, where like an artist releases an album 1 year and then they come back, they with another classic like sophomore or whatever album. They don't do it like that no more. Now artists, I feel like, take a little bit more of a break. They'll do like some singles, but like full bodies of work, of good work at that. You know what I'm saying? It took Cardi B like 10 years to drop like another project, which is nuts. But yeah, people talk about 1998 a lot. We talked about 2016. But again, 96 was, I think, the real start of the commercial success. Like widely, commercial success. You still can play a lot of those albums, records that was released, in 96 today, and they still gonna go crazy enough that like songs that were released in 96 are being sampled today, which I don't know, that just makes me feel so old.
All right. It is. I guess you can consider it the old school. It's been 30 years, so that's a
30
long
years. And so tell us in the comments, like, is 1996? Because I guess that is considered like old school.
Years ago.
Crazy.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
It is crazy.
No, it is.
And I like you said, I like what you said about 1998 as well. That's another one of my big years as well that I love for hip hop. To me, that's hip hop just basically just took off and just went to another, planet. Like we was out of here then. Like DMX, I got the album right here, his second album. He dropped 2 albums in 1998. So he was on fire. Jay-Z dropped his third album, Hard Knock Life. Like you said, OutKast, Big Pun. It was just so much heat. is it? Talib Kweli and Mos Def dropped their album that year. It was just crazy. 98 is crazy too. If somebody would throw 98 in there, you know, it's definitely worth the discussion. But I still will remain on 96. 1996 takes the crown, holds the crown, and like we said, it also was a tragic year as well because we lost the greatest of all time, the biggest rapper. Till this day, he's still the biggest rapper in the game. Like, Tupac is still talked about to this day. The man's been gone almost 30 years. In September of this year, it would be 30 years. And people still doing interviews about him, still mentioning him. You know what I'm saying? So, the impact...
I mean, I feel like without Tupac... I do wonder what 96 would be without Tupac.
Yeah, exactly.
Commercially, I don't know. I mean, when you think about all the songs that's on All Eyez on Me, I mean, that was the first double rap album. Like, it started a new wave of sound, right? Like, especially coming from the West Coast. Like, it was literally the only thing you really heard about, talked about. That was the only thing that was on the news. Ironically enough, the news was... I remember, like, they were shitting on Tupac, like, all they was just hip-hop is bad, like, the whole rhetoric around rap music and, like, trying to get it shut down and, like, all this kind of stuff. But hip-hop persevered, man, and it really, like, rose to the top of the Billboard at that year. And I don't know if we would have got that without Pop. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Reasonable Doubt would have still, you know, at the time when it came out, it was, like, the underground buzz, but it wasn't what All Eyez on Me was. You know what I mean? Like,
facts.
It didn't get that.
Yeah, like you said, Reasonable Doubt, when it first came out, it didn't sell a lot of copies. It wasn't, you know, about the years, 5-6 years later, then it started getting this recognition. I think it took like 7-8 years for it to go platinum. So, definitely carried 96. As we do now, he was the artist of the year. He had the album of the year in 2026. I mean, in 1996. It was his year. He was in movies. He was award shows. Tupac was everywhere, man. So yeah, if you can't speak of 1996 without Tupac Shakur. He defined that year. And like I said, he dropped 2 albums that year as well. The Machiavelli album came out. He passed, but can't forget about the Machiavelli album that came out later on in the year.
Right.
And so 1996, I don't see nothing.
It was dope.
Rocking with that year. It's just crazy from top to bottom.
It was.
I was too young to really be buying albums, but I can imagine being somebody grown up, you know, having what albums to buy that year. That just would have been crazy. You just would have been broke. Like every month, it seemed like it was a classic, a great album.
Listen, lived at the record store, lived at the, you know what I'm saying, like trying to get the tapes or whatever. I remember my parents had like a big tape player in their room, and I don't even know how I got my hands on it was a single, How Do You Want It? It was Tupac single, and I remember trying to sneak and play it out on a tape player, crazy times. But in school, the older kids at school, they would exchange mixtapes or burnt, not even mixtapes for real. I mean, they mixtapes is it is by definition, but just burnt CDs, just being passed along, and all the tapes, that they could make, which I think at that time people was burning tapes tapes wild time for people to be doing that. But I think it was hip hop was the underground force that really showed and proved in 96 and got the global recognition that it deserved at that time. So I'm just amazed at how far hip hop has gone or come, since then. We 30 years later. And I think I have put this on Threads a little while back where I feel like man, restoring the feeling of just really dope projects. You know what I'm saying? Like, we got Cole earlier this year. I'm excited to see all the other releases that we got coming up this year. And I just feel like we are getting back to good quality music from good quality artists that's going to be released, since the start of this period. So yeah, man, the golden era was a time. I love hip hop for this reason. Like I said, these albums marked a time for me, for sure.
Yeah. I agree with you. And like I said, I was just, naming out a bunch of albums that came out that year. I don't think I got to all of them. I think the Lost Boys with their album, their debut album came out that year as well. Snoop's second album, even though, a lot of people, kind of criticize it, not that good. But he dropped The Dogfather, his second album. Like I said, West Side Connection with Ice Cube, Matt 10, and Dub C. Their debut album dropped that year as well. I used to love West Side Connection. Like, I could just keep going on and on. Too Short dropped in 96. Of course,
everybody.
It was like everybody was just dropping.
Every region had a sound, and that's also the other thing I loved about 96 is because it was like the regions was defining their sound for real. Like West Coast, the G-Funk, like it was like there was the peak of that moment. And then you had, like I said, you got Bad Boy, you got the, East Coast like sound of like just sample smooth shit, like shiny suits and like, just elevated luxury rap. Talking about Jay-Z on Reasonable Doubt, talking about, brands that we ain't never heard about in the hood. You know what I'm saying? And just create like vividly creating sounds that was unique to the regions. And I love that because, that's how people really identify themselves, like where they from and through the music. That's what makes it like such a defining year to me. The South with UGK, man, listen.
Riding Dirty.
Like sound defining, genre defining things. We think about rap, like I said, it's just so multi-dimensional where you got all these different sounds and influences, and you see that all throughout 96 from, like you said, top to bottom.
Yeah, like you said, you had the South, you had the Midwest doing their thing, you had the West Coast doing their thing, East Coast. Can't forget about your boys out of Chicago, Crucial Conflict, I remember they released.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Well, so yeah, it was a lot going on back then in the year 96. 30 years. Can't believe it's been 30 years already, man. Time flies. It's crazy. It was just you just had to be there. You had to be there. But like I said, I know a lot of people might not agree. They might come in with another year, throw in another year. But I think the top 4 years in hip hop are the 4 years that we mentioned. 1988, 94, 96, and 98. I think those 4 years, those are the fantastic 4 years for hip hop.
I love that. Fantastic Four.
Yeah, exactly. Pick one. You could pick one of the years. But
you got 2016 though.
2016.
You know what I'm saying? As long as it's kept.
Okay. You want to make a case for 2016? Okay.
I do, just because The Life of Pablo by Kanye is like probably like one of my top 5 Kanye albums.
Okay.
Maybe top 3. I love Life of Pablo. You got Drake, you got Future, like you got Chance, Coloring Book 2016, Blank Face by Schoolboy Q. Like 2016 has some nice ones, but no, it doesn't necessarily like. I think 2016 really is the year, because I remember like 2016 was the year where people started going crazy over streams and like, being top of the charts, whatever. I think that's when those conversations really started to like build up, as far as, but hip hop was commercial. So,
Yeah, that was the streaming area when everybody was moving on, definitely keys to Spotify, all of those, Tidal and Apple Music and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. So it was a very interesting time. I think 2016, give it some more time. I think it'll make his way in that conversation as one of the greatest hip hop years. But like I said, let me just go back to 96. 96 is just where it was at for me. I don't see nothing topping it. I think the Ghetto Boys released the album in 96. It was just a great year. It was a great all around year. Great great year. Chicago Bulls won the NBA championship that
Talk
year.
about it. Talk about it.
Chicago, shout out to yeah,
One time. You know what I'm saying? Hip hop, and on top of that, to your point, hip hop and sports started to really merge at that time.
Yeah,
it really started to be like this crossover between hip hop and sports, which we still see today. It's just been like 96 was a really good year. I'm like looking at some of the other years where, you know, a lot of great albums were released, and 98 is the only year that I think could probably come close. I think other years like 2000, like I said, 2016, like they had some really notable releases from like the major players, but 96 had everything.
Yeah, every day. Had everything. The females representing, they had like you had debut albums from Lil' Kim and Foxy Brown in the first.
I talk about it. Like you had two women who were like at the top of their game, who coexisted. Now they ain't fuck with each other, but like they coexisted, right? Like, and it was good female rap. Listen, Fox and Kim both created a lane for women in hip hop, which we see today. There would be no Nicki, there would be no Meg, there would be none of these people without Kim. There would be, you know what I'm saying? Like, think about the Fox influence. It's crazy. And for me, hardcore, like, my little young stuff had no business listening to that joint, but I'm talking about top to bottom, okay? Like, listen, it slipped into 96 because I think they said it was released at the end of the year, because I remember like being a little bit older, like really rocking with that album. But that was the time.
It was the time, you know. You know, it was just crazy. I know you mentioned the Fugees. Of course, I had, you know,
right.
Score, you know, classic right here. All three was, you know, their last album. You know, we didn't think that at that time, we didn't think this would be their last album, but this is actually their last album, their biggest album, classic. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, you know, 1996 was a crazy year. We mentioned, of course, you know, OutKast, ATLiens, big year. That's when Andre kind of went left field. He started being on there. You know, they went to the alien. He started being that weird nigga.
Yeah.
This album right here, classic album. This is when he got with Erykah Badu. That's when him and Erykah Badu, the nigga started. He started, you know, spearmanning.
But it had elevators on it.
Listen,
crazy
album. Crazy right here. You know, this right here took OutKast to the next level. Their classic 1994 release. But when they dropped this, their sophomore album,
ATLiens,
yeah, man, one of my favorite Dre Bird. They got two dope boys in the Cadillac on here. Yeah, great album, you know. So I can just go
phenomenal year.
Yeah. So, like I said, tell me another year that's fucking with this. All these classics.
Only thing I can say is 98. That's all I got. I mean, I might make a case for like
94,
2000 or something, maybe. I don't know. But
2003 was a slept-on year as well. 2003 a slept-on year. 50 Cent dropped.
With T.I., The Rise of the Trap.
And Jay-Z dropped the Black album. OutKast dropped their album, the double album. So 2003 is a great year, but like I said, none of them stack up to 1996.
Because it was, you know what it is? I think it was because 96 was, you know, like when an artist first comes out, right? Like it's just like Jay-Z, Reasonable Doubt, right? Like it's really the start of their career, and a lot of times artists put out some of their best stuff in their earliest works. I mean, I don't know why it is. It just is what it is. Like with Fugees Score, like one of their best album. You know what I mean? And it's just like it's hard to follow up.
Yeah, I think it's because
it's hard to follow up.
Yeah, they hungry at that time. They didn't know
exactly.
Nobody was calling them great. They didn't go there. I think once you get complacent, everybody start cheering you and start singing your praises. Kind of get a little complacent. So when you're hungry, your first outing, you don't know. You know what I'm saying? So you a lot of people put out their best work with their first album. Look at 50 Cent, for example. His best album is Get Rich or Die Trying. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, but 96 was one of those years, though. It was all Tupac dominated the year. Death Row, Bad Boy had something to say. I remember first hearing Mace. I think Mace came out that year as well. The Lots came out, far as like jumping on track. So yeah, even though we just talking about people that drop albums that year. We're not
right. That's what I'm saying. Like, you have albums, but then you also have like a lot of the singles that were released that year as well, which were precursors to like the albums that dropped in '97. Like I said, like Twista, Adrenaline Rush, and like you said, Maze. Bad Boy really started to take over, and it was the merge of like hip hop and R&B singles that were coming out around that time. So it was the start, I think, of where we are today. It really set the tone. Shout out to Pac, man. Like, gone too soon.
I know.
I just wonder what hip hop would be like if the events behind '96, didn't happen the way that they did.
Yeah.
I really wonder. And that's why I love that J. Cole made that song, like, What If? Because it really is like, what if, we still had a lot of the great artists that we have today that were released 30 years ago. And we still got a lot of them. But I just, 96 was just marked by like the biggest beef in hip hop, like ever. It's probably still to this day. And it's just defining. It's a defining year for sure.
It really was. It really was. That's pretty much. That's all I pretty much have. On it. My case. I presented my evidence right here. It's like, you got to argue your case, but you got to present your evidence. I kind of show these pretty much all the albums that I have from 1996. I need to add some more collection. Like I said, I got Reasonable Doubt, or I had Reasonable Doubt. I have no idea what happened to it. But yeah, I presented a compelling case for the year 1996. If we was in the court, we was, in front of a jury right now, I think we'll make that case that 90.
I think so.
Yeah, I think we did. We laid out the framework. We presented our evidence. Let us know in the comment section what you think. What was your favorite year in hip hop history? We saying 1996, but you might have another year. You might have a wild card that we didn't even mention. You might say 1991 or 92, for the older people out there,
Yeah.
But yeah, just let us know. Let us know in the comment section. We can chop it up. But whatever year you pick, you got to back it up with your evidence, though. You can't just say a year. You gotta show and prove. You gotta tell us what albums, rival what we have. And I guarantee think you can do it. But yeah, that's just our opinion, though. But yeah, we're gonna go ahead and end it on that note. You know what I'm saying? This is Rapology. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Greatly appreciate the support. I'm your boy Maurice.
This your girl DJ Star City.
All right, y'all. We'll catch you guys on the next one. Talk to you soon. Peace.
Peace.